black man in a tailored suit is driving home from work when a white police officer stops him for suspicious driving. The encounter quickly escalates, orders shouted, hands raised, backup called. The man remains calm but firm, challenging every unjust command with dignity and precision. When the cop pushes too far, forcing him to the ground, the man finally shows his badge. Not a police badge. The night was quiet. The kind of quiet that presses on the skin and makes the world feel smaller. A black Mercedes rolled down Highway 85, its engine humming smooth and steady beneath the dim orange glow of the streetlights. Inside, Andre Miles, 39, sat behind the wheel, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, Bluetooth still blinking from his last call with the office. He had just wrapped up a 14-hour day at the courthouse. The week had been brutal. 3 back-to-back hearings, 2 media interviews, and 1 heated meeting with the city's police union. Andre was the state attorney for Fulton County, one of the youngest to ever hold a position. But tonight, he wasn't thinking about titles or headlines. He was thinking about getting home, about his daughter waiting up with her math homework, and about the silence he needed after fighting for justice all day. Then came the blue lights. Flash, flash, flash. Andre frowned. Not again, he muttered under his breath. He signaled, slowed down, and pulled onto the shoulder. The highway was nearly empty, the night air heavy with tension and humidity. He watched the reflection of the police cruiser's lights dance across his dashboard. A voice boomed through a megaphone. Driver, turn off your engine. Put your hands where I can see them. Andre sighed, hands gripping the steering wheel. He knew the script. He had heard it too many times. Not as a suspect, but as the attorney defending those who never got to finish that script alive. He complied. Engine off. Hands visible. The officer approached slowly. Flashlight out, gun holster but hand hovering. He was tall, late 30s, square-jawed, white. The kind of cop who looked like he'd been waiting all night for someone to make him feel powerful again. Andre rolled down his window halfway. Good evening, officer. Is there a problem? The flashlight hit him square in the face. License and registration. Andre blinked at the glare. Can I ask why I've been pulled over? You were driving erratically. Erratically? Andre repeated. I set my cruise control to 55. I've been in the right lane the entire time. The officer didn't answer. He just kept the light on Andre's face. License and registration. He repeated, sharper this time. Andre exhaled, slow and steady. Sure. He reached for the glove box. I'm reaching for my registration. My wallet's in my jacket pocket. Keep your hands where I can see them, the cop snapped suddenly, stepping back, hand now resting fully on his gun. Andre froze. The same bitter feeling rose in his chest. Fear tangled with fury. Officer, I just told you I was getting my registration. The officer's tone hardened. I said, keep your hands on the wheel. Andre did. All right. His voice was calm, controlled. Years in the courtroom had taught him how to sound unshakable, even when adrenaline flooded his veins. Another moment passed, long, cold, tense. Then the officer spoke again, his voice lower but edged with suspicion. Where are you coming from this late? Work. What kind of work? I'm an attorney. That earned a snort. Yeah, sure you are. Andre's jaw flexed. I can show you my credentials if you'd like. Step out of the vehicle. The officer said suddenly. Andre blinked. Excuse me. Step out of the vehicle. Is there a reason? Because I said so. Now get out. Andre hesitated. Not out of fear, but disbelief. He had seen too many body cam videos start this way and end in tragedy. He glanced around. No witnesses, just darkness and highway wind. Officer, he said carefully, I'm complying with every order. I'd just like to know why you're escalating this. The officer leaned closer to the window, his face tight with authority. Because you're being uncooperative. Andre's voice dropped lower, cold and deliberate. Officer, recording devices in your cruiser and on your vest are capturing this conversation, correct? That stopped the cop for a second. He blinked. What? Your body cam, Andre continued. It's on, right? The cop straightened, suddenly wary. Yeah, it's on. Good. Andre's tone sharpened. Then I want the record to reflect that I complied with every command, and you provided no lawful reason for escalation. The officer scowled. Are you trying to be smart with me? I'm trying to be alive. That line hung in the air like a knife. The cop's nostrils flared. Out of the car. Now. Andre finally sighed and opened the door, stepping out slowly, hands visible. He stood tall, 6'1", broad shoulders, calm eyes that betrayed nothing. Turn around. The officer barked. For what? Turn. Around. Andre met his eyes. Am I being detained or arrested? You're being detained. On what grounds? Suspicious behavior. Andre almost laughed. Driving while black? Keep your mouth shut, the cop snapped. Andre turned slowly, his patience thinning. You know, officer, he said, voice level, I've prosecuted cases involving unlawful stops. I know the law better than you think. Hands on the car, the officer ordered. Andre did it. Cold metal met warm skin. The officer patted him down roughly, shoving his jacket aside. Andre winced as the cop reached for his wallet, flipped it open, and froze. Inside, gleaming on a flashlight, was a gold state attorney's badge, engraved with the seal of Georgia. The silence was instant, heavy, crushing. The officer stared at it, eyes wide, his grip loosened. What is this?" he stammered. Andre turned his head slightly, voice cool and cutting. "That's what authority looks like when it's earned, not abused." The cop took a step back as it burned. You're the state attorney?" Andre faced him fully now. "Yes, and you just profiled me, detained me without cause, and violated several procedures that could end your career." The color drained from the officer's face. Andre took his wallet back, straightened his jacket, and stared him down. "Now," he said calmly, "would you like to tell me again why you pulled me over?" The officer opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The night swallowed his excuses. And for the first time, it wasn't Andre who looked like he didn't belong there. It was the cop. The air was thick, too quiet for comfort. The officer's flashlight beam still flickered across the pavement, and for a long moment neither man moved. Andre stood still, his breathing even, the cool night wind brushing against his shirt sleeves. The officer, Sergeant Doyle, as his name tag revealed, still looked pale, blinking like he couldn't quite process the disaster unfolding in front of him. But the silence didn't last. From behind them came the sound of screeching tires. Another cruiser pulled up, lights flashing red and blue like a siren storm. Then another. 2 more officers jumped out, hands already near their weapons, scanning the scene. Doyle straightened immediately, trying to recover some semblance of control. "Over here," he barked. "Suspect's been detained." The 2 new officers approached. One of them, a younger cop with a square face and wide eyes, frowned. "What's going on, Sergeant?" Andre turned his head slowly, his expression unreadable. "Suspect," he repeated. His voice was low, calm, the kind of calm that scared people more than yelling ever could. Doyle hesitated. He was driving erratically, failed to comply with commands. Andre raised an eyebrow. "Is that your report now?" The younger officer turned toward Andre. "Sir, can we see your ID?" Andre reached into his jacket slowly, deliberately, never breaking eye contact with Doyle. He pulled out his wallet again, flipped it open, and held it toward the younger cop. The flashlight hit the badge. The gold glinted, and the air changed again. The younger cop froze. His partner leaned in, squinting, then looked up sharply at Doyle. "Sergeant," he said slowly, "this is the state attorney." Doyle didn't answer. Andre crossed his arms. His voice dropped, smooth but heavy. "Gentlemen, I'd appreciate it if someone told me why I was just forced out of my vehicle and searched without cause." The younger officer's mouth opened. "Sir, Andre held up a hand. "Save it. I already heard that song from your sergeant." Doyle stepped forward, his voice strained. "Look, this was a misunderstanding. I thought—" "You thought what?" Andre cut in sharply. That I stole my own car? That a black man in a suit driving a Mercedes past 9 p.m. must be up to something? Doyle's mouth tightened. I didn't say that. You didn't have to, Andre shot back. Your actions said it for you. The younger cop took a small step back, glancing nervously between them. His partner shifted uncomfortably. Andre's tone cooled. Do you know what's ironic, Sergeant? I spent all day arguing in front of a judge about police accountability. I defended officers who made good faith mistakes, and I prosecuted those who didn't. You should pray you fall into the first category. Doyle bristled. Are you threatening me? Andre leaned in slightly. His words measured like a closing argument. No, I'm educating you. Threats are impulsive. Education is permanent. A flicker of something crossed Doyle's face. Shame, fear, anger, maybe all three. The younger officer stepped forward tentatively. Sir, we really didn't know who you were. We just got a call about a suspicious vehicle. Andre turned his head toward him. And did that call say anything about what color the driver was? The younger officer hesitated. No, sir. Then tell me, Andre said, his voice tightening. What made me suspicious? The car? The suit? Or the skin? No one answered. Andre took a slow breath, then gestured toward the body cam on Doyle's vest. Everything that happened tonight is recorded, right? Doyle nodded stiffly. Yes. Good. Then I'll let the footage do the talking when I call your precinct in the morning. He walked back toward his car, opening the door slowly. Doyle's voice followed him, smaller now, less certain. Wait, you're really going to file a report on this? Andre looked over his shoulder, his tone cool and deliberate. I'm going to file the truth. He got into the car, started the engine, and rolled down the window. The hum of the engine filled the silence. Here's the thing about power, Sergeant, he said, his voice calm but cutting through the night. When you think you have it, you abuse it. When you truly have it, you don't need to. He drove off, taillights fading into the darkness, leaving the three officers standing in the red and blue glow of their own mistakes. The younger cop finally turned to Doyle. Man, you just detained the state attorney. Doyle didn't answer. He just stared down at his shaking hands, the adrenaline fading into dread. For the first time that night, he realized the law he'd tried to bend had just snapped back. Hard. Morning sunlight cut through the blinds of the Fulton County Justice Center, slicing across the polished desk of Andre Miles, state attorney. His coffee sat untouched, already cold. He wasn't thinking about caffeine. He was thinking about control and how easily some men lost it when they thought they had power. His assistant, Leah, hovered in the doorway, tablet in hand. You didn't sleep again, did you? Andre didn't look up. I wasn't planning to. Leah sighed softly. She had worked for him long enough to recognize his moods. Quiet meant furious. There's already chatter online, she said carefully. Someone leaked dashcam footage from last night. Andre's eyes flicked up. How? Doesn't say who, but the clip's spreading. You can hear everything, the tone, the commands, your voice when you told him, I'm trying to be alive. It's gone viral. Andre leaned back slowly in his chair, exhaling through his nose. I figured it might. Good. Leah hesitated. You want out there? He nodded. If the truth makes people uncomfortable, it's doing its job. There was a knock at the door. Leah turned. That'll be him. Who? Andre asked. Before she could answer, Captain Reese from Internal Affairs stepped in. Stocky, gray-haired, with the look of a man who'd seen every version of bad judgment the badge could bring. Morning, Counselor, Reese said, closing the door. I heard you had a rough night. Andre's tone stayed professional. Rough is one word for it. Reese set a folder on the desk. Officer Doyle, 12 years on the force. No prior disciplinary actions, though a few complaints for aggressive behavior. Nothing that stuck. Andre raised an eyebrow. Until now. Reese sighed. Look, I've already reviewed the footage. It's bad, Miles. He escalated fast. No probable cause. Body language, tone, everything. He didn't just stop you, he profiled you. Andre's gaze hardened. Then the system works, Captain, because I'm filing a formal misconduct complaint. Today. Reese nodded slowly. I figured, but you should know, The department's already in panic mode. Chief wants to handle this quietly. They're worried it'll turn into another media firestorm. Andre stood, buttoning his jacket. Then they should have trained their officers better. Reese smirked faintly. You know how this goes, Miles. You make this official, it's gonna get ugly. Union lawyers, press conferences, protests, they'll dig into everything. Even you. Andre met his eyes. Let them. He paused, voice colder now. If I'm willing to prosecute the powerless for breaking the law, I'll sure as hell hold the powerful accountable when they abuse it. Reese studied him a moment, then gave a slow nod. I'll back your play. As the captain left, Leah closed the door gently behind him. You're really doing this, huh? She said softly. Andre looked out the window. The city sprawled beneath him, beautiful, flawed, restless. I don't get to choose which parts of justice I like, he murmured. Either it's for everyone or it's for no one. By noon, the press conference room was full. Cameras, reporters, flashing lights. Andre stood behind the podium, calm and immaculate in a dark suit. The microphones hissed faintly as he adjusted them. Last night, he began, I was pulled over by an officer who, without probable cause, escalated a traffic stop into an unlawful detainment. I complied fully. I identified myself. I was treated as a suspect, not because of my actions, but because of my appearance. The room fell silent. Andre continued, each word crisp, deliberate. I am not sharing this to seek revenge. I am sharing this because I have the privilege of power and platform, a privilege too many others don't. The law must protect the citizen, not the prejudice. Hand shot up. A reporter called out, Mr. Miles, do you plan to press charges against the officer? Andre paused. No, but I do plan to ensure he faces accountability through the proper channels. What happens next should set a standard, not a spectacle. Another voice. Do you think this incident would have gone differently if you weren't the state attorney? Andre's jaw tightened. It would have gone worse. That's the point. The room murmured. Cameras clicked like mechanical applause. Across town, Officer Doyle watched the press conference from his living room couch. His uniform lay folded neatly on the coffee table, a habit drilled into him after 12 years of service. But today, the sight of it filled him with nausea. His wife hovered nearby, phone buzzing with messages from friends and family. They're saying you pulled over the state attorney, she whispered. Doyle didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on the TV. Andre's face filled the screen, steady, righteous, controlled. The words hit harder now than they had the night before. When you think you have power, you abuse it. When you truly have it, you don't need to. The sound cut deep. Doyle rubbed his hands together, palms trembling. For the first time in his career, he wasn't sure if the badge on his chest represented justice or just control. Later that night, in his quiet office, Andre reviewed the complaint draft one last time. The body cam transcript sat beside it, highlighted and annotated. At the bottom, he signed his name. Andre Miles, state attorney. He sat back, the weight of it all heavy in his chest. Leah peeked in through the doorway. You okay? Andre gave a faint, tired smile. Okay enough. Change doesn't come easy, but it comes. She nodded. The public's behind you. You've got people calling you a hero online. Andre shook his head. Heroes fix what's broken. I just refuse to be broken. He looked out the window again. The city light shimmered, imperfect, defiant, alive. Tomorrow, he said softly, we see what justice really means. The courtroom buzzed with low murmurs, cameras flashing as reporters jostled for space. Every seat was taken. At the center table sat Officer Thomas Doyle, pale and stiff in his uniform, jaw locked like stone. Across from him, calm, composed, and impossibly steady, sat Andre Miles, the man he had humiliated just a week before. The irony of the scene wasn't lost on anyone. The enforcer was now being judged. The accused was now the accuser. Judge Ramirez entered the chamber, gavel striking sharply. Court is in session. The murmurs died instantly. At the prosecution table, Internal Affairs Captain Reese stood with his papers in hand. Your Honor, we're here for a departmental hearing regarding Officer Thomas Doyle, badge number 50417. charged with misconduct, racial profiling, and use of unnecessary force during a traffic stop involving State Attorney Andre Miles. Andre remained silent, his hands clasped loosely. He wasn't here to gloat. He was here to expose. Judge Ramirez, Mr. Miles, as a complainant, do you wish to make an opening statement? Andre rose slowly, buttoning his jacket. His voice was low, steady, but carried weight that filled every corner of the room. Your Honor, members of the board, he began. On the night of August 17th, I was pulled over without probable cause. I identified myself as state attorney. I was ordered out of my vehicle, threatened, and treated like a criminal, all while fully compliant. He paused, letting that settle. Had I not had the presence of mind to announce my identity, had I been any other black man driving home that night, I could be dead. And that's not speculation. That's reality. He turned, locking eyes briefly with Doyle. This isn't about revenge. It's about responsibility. Every officer holds the power of life and death in their hands. When that power is used recklessly or with bias, the entire system rots. He sat back down. The courtroom was silent except for the clicking of a camera shutter. The defense rose. Mark Benson, the police union's attorney, slick and confident, stepped forward. Your Honor, my client acted in accordance with standard procedures. Mr. Miles failed to signal within the required distance before a turn, giving Officer Doyle legitimate grounds to initiate a traffic stop. He glanced at Andre, then back to the judge. What followed was miscommunication, not malice. In high-stress situations, verbal commands are critical for officer safety. My client. Andre's attorney interrupted sharply. Officer safety doesn't justify pointing a weapon at a cooperative civilian. The judge raised her hand. Order. The room quieted. When it was Doyle's turn to speak, the air thickened with tension. He stood, his voice hoarse but firm. I didn't know who he was, he said. I just saw someone reaching into his glove compartment. I thought. You thought what? Andre asked quietly. The courtroom turned to him. The judge didn't stop him. She wanted to hear it, too. Doyle swallowed hard. I thought you might be a threat. Andre leaned forward. Because I'm black? The words landed like a hammer. Doyle's silence was his answer. Andre shook his head slowly. You didn't see a threat, Officer Doyle. You saw a stereotype. Doyle's attorney objected. Speculation. But the damage was done. The truth had hung heavy in the air long enough for everyone to feel it. Reese called for the body cam footage to be played. The courtroom lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. License and registration. Doyle's voice barked, echoing through the speakers. Andre's calm tone followed. It's in the glove compartment. I'm reaching for it slowly. Then, the unmistakable sound of a gun being unholstered. The room gasped. On screen, Andre's hands were raised. Steady, open, non-threatening. Then the chilling line that had gone viral played. I'm not trying to win, officer. I'm trying to stay alive. Silence. Even Doyle lowered his head. When the lights came back up, Andre didn't gloat. He didn't need to. The footage spoke for itself. Judge Ramirez. Officer Doyle, do you have anything further to add? Doyle hesitated. For the first time, his voice cracked. I made a mistake, he said quietly. I overreacted. I saw something that wasn't there. Maybe I was afraid. Maybe I've been afraid for a long time. I don't know, but that fear cost me my judgment. He looked at Andre. And it could have cost you your life. Andre's face softened slightly, not out of forgiveness, but understanding. Fear isn't an excuse, he said gently. It's a teacher. The question is whether you'll learn from it. Doyle nodded faintly. I will. When the gavel struck again, the judgment was clear. Officer Thomas Doyle is hereby found guilty of misconduct and racial bias in the execution of his duties. Effective immediately, he is terminated from the Fulton Police Department. This court recommends criminal review by the district attorney's office. The courtroom erupted. Some cheered. Some shouted. Andre didn't move. He simply exhaled, slow, controlled, weary. Justice wasn't victory. It was relief. Outside, reporters swarmed. Mr. Miles, How do you feel about the verdict? Do you think this will change policing in the state? Will you seek to have Officer Doyle prosecuted further? Andre raised his hand. The noise dimmed. This isn't about one man losing his job, he said. It's about a system that teaches fear instead of fairness. It's about a truth we keep ignoring, that justice without equality is just procedure. He looked directly into one of the cameras. I hope this isn't the end of a story. I hope it's the start of one. That night, Andre sat alone in his office. Outside, the city hummed. Sirens, car horns, life moving on. He opened a drawer and pulled out his father's old badge, a relic from a different era. His father had been one of the first black officers in Georgia. He used to tell Andre, "Son, justice don't need a color. Just courage." Andre turned the badge over in his hand. Its metal cool against his skin. He whispered, "I hope I made you proud." 3 days after the verdict, the nation had a new face for the conversation on police accountability. Not a victim, not a protester, but Andre Miles, the state attorney who refused to stay silent. News networks looped the footage nonstop. The traffic stop, the body cam, the hearing, the sentence. The hashtag spread like wildfire. Hashtag driving while black. Hashtag justice for all. Hashtag Andre Miles speaks. For every voice that praised his courage, another accused him of humiliating law enforcement. It was a storm, and Andre stood in the center of it. He sat in his kitchen early one morning, staring at his untouched cup of coffee. The TV flickered quietly with a news anchor's voice. The U.S. Senate Committee on Civil Rights has invited State Attorney Andre Miles to testify on systemic racial bias in policing. His testimony is expected to address both his personal experience and his legal reforms proposal. Andre rubbed his temple. "Here we go," he murmured. Leah, his assistant, had stayed the night again. She was too invested to pretend this was just work anymore. She handed him his phone. "Your schedule for D.C. is confirmed, and CNN wants an exclusive before the hearing." Andre groaned softly. "No cameras. Not before I speak to Congress. This isn't performance." Leah smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but the truth needs an audience." Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill. Andre walked through the marble corridors with quiet purpose, his suit perfectly pressed, his eyes clear. Cameras flashed as he entered the committee room. Behind him trailed Reese, who had insisted on attending for moral support. "Never thought I'd see you walking into Congress as a headline witness," Reese said under his breath. Andre managed a small smile. "Never thought I'd be racially profiled on my way home either." Inside, the committee room buzzed. Lawmakers whispered. Aides shuffled papers, the air thick with anticipation. At the long table sat Andre, alone, a single microphone, a sea of faces. Senator Whitmore, an older white man with a deep Southern drawl, adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Miles, thank you for being here today." Andre nodded politely. "Thank you for the invitation." Whitmore leaned forward. "You've been called a hero by some and a provocateur by others. Why did this case matter so much to you?" Andre met his gaze evenly. "Because I didn't survive it by skill. I survived it by luck. And luck shouldn't decide who gets to live through a traffic stop." The room went still. Whitmore scribbled something on his notepad, impressed. Andre continued. "This isn't about painting all officers as villains. It's about demanding they live up to the oath they took, to serve and protect all citizens, not just the ones who look like them." Senator Cortez, a black woman from Illinois, spoke next. "Mr. Miles, if you could change one thing about the system, what would it be?" Andre paused, his voice softening. "Accountability. True accountability. A badge should never be a shield from consequence. It should be a reminder of duty." He glanced at the cameras in the back of the room, knowing millions were watching. When a cop breaks the law, it's not just misconduct, it's betrayal. And betrayal destroys trust. Communities without trust are just battlegrounds. The words hit hard. Several senators nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. As he finished his testimony, a senator asked, "And what of Officer Doyle? How do you feel about his sentencing?" Andre hesitated. The silence stretched. Finally, he said, "I don't hate him. I pity him. Because fear made him blind, and blindness in a man with a gun is a danger to everyone. He looked directly at the panel. But if he's willing to confront that fear and learn from it, maybe something good can come out of this mess. Justice isn't revenge. It's restoration. Applause broke out across the chamber. Not loud, but real. Respectful. Outside, the press mobbed him. Mr. Miles, do you believe America can ever fix its racial divide? Do you plan to run for office? Will you meet Officer Doyle again? Andre paused mid-step. He looked straight into the nearest camera. And in that calm, resolute voice the world had come to know, he said, I'm not running for office. I'm standing for truth. And yes, if Officer Doyle ever wants to talk, I'll listen. That's where healing begins. Meanwhile, in a small, empty police station 2 states away, Thomas Doyle watched the testimony alone. He was no longer in uniform, just a man stripped of the symbols that once made him feel powerful. When Andre's words played, justice isn't revenge, it's restoration. Doyle's eyes burned. He picked up his phone and hesitated for a long time before finally dialing. The number rang twice before a familiar voice answered. State Attorney's Office, Leah speaking. This is Thomas Doyle, he said quietly. I don't expect him to talk to me, but can you tell Mr. Miles I'm sorry? For everything. Leah hesitated. I'll let him know. That night, Andre sat by his window, city lights shimmering in the distance. Leah told him about the call. He didn't speak for a long while. Finally, he said softly, Tell him I forgive him. But forgiveness isn't freedom. It's responsibility. Leah nodded. You're not just making history, Andre. You're making humanity. He smiled faintly. Let's hope it sticks. The next morning, the headlines read, From victim to voice, Andre Miles sparks National Police Reform Bill. Public protests turned into policy debates. Training programs were reviewed. Body cam transparency laws began drafting in multiple states. And somewhere behind all that noise, 2 men, once enemies, began the slow process of reflection. 2 years later, Atlanta, Georgia. A warm wind swept to the newly opened Miles Institute for Justice Reform, its glass doors gleaming in the sun. Inside, banners read, Accountability, Awareness, Action. A crowd had gathered, students, officers, activists, journalists, all waiting for the guest of honor. At the podium, Andre Miles adjusted the microphone, a calm smile on his face. He had aged a little, faint lines near his eyes, silver beginning to touch his beard, but his voice carried the same strength it always had. 2 years ago, he began, I was just another man driving home, and in 12 seconds, I became a target. But that night taught me something, that fear can destroy or it can build. He looked around the audience, meeting eyes from every background, white, black, brown, uniformed, and civilian alike. This institute isn't about blame. It's about better. It's about training both sides of the badge. To see, not just to react. To listen, not just a command. Applause rose like a tide. After the ceremony, Andre stepped aside for interviews. A young reporter approached, nervous but eager. Mr. Miles, she asked, why call it the Miles Institute instead of naming it after justice or equality? Andre smiled softly. Because it's not just a building. It's a journey. Every mile forward matters. Every step we take toward understanding counts. The crowd nearby chuckled at the clever wordplay. But Andre's eyes, calm, reflective, showed he meant it. That evening, the Institute hosted its first joint workshop, Bridging the Divide. Half the seats were filled with rookie police officers. The other half, young black and brown men from local community centers. At the center of the room stood Andre and, to everyone's surprise, Thomas Doyle. The moment Doyle entered, whispers spread like fire. Phones went up, cameras started recording. The man who had once aimed a gun at Andre was now standing beside him. Andre stepped forward, placing a hand on Doyle's shoulder. This, he said to the room, is what accountability looks like. Not avoidance, not denial, confrontation. We can't fix what we won't face. Doyle took a deep breath, his voice low and honest. I'm not proud of what I did. I thought I understood fear, until I realized mine was built on ignorance. I had to unlearn everything that made me dangerous. He turned to the young men in the crowd. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I hope my failure teaches you something. Power means nothing if you can't control your prejudice. The room fell silent, not from shock, but from understanding. Andre nodded. And that's why we're here. Not to point fingers, to open hands. Later that night, as the workshop ended, Doyle lingered by the stage. Andre joined him quietly. Still strange being on the same side of the table? He asked with a faint grin. Doyle chuckled. Every day. But I'm learning. Andre nodded. That's all any of us can do. They stood for a moment, looking at the students filing out, young men laughing with officers, exchanging handshakes, comparing experiences. Doyle sighed softly. You think it'll stick? Andre smiled faintly. If one person walks away seeing another human being instead of a threat, then yeah, it sticks. A few weeks later, Andre sat in his office, reviewing data reports. The reform programs were working. Police complaints were down. Community trust scores had risen for the first time in years. He leaned back, closing his laptop, when Leah walked in. You're trending again, she teased, handing him her tablet. He rolled his eyes. For what this time? She grinned. Congress just passed the Miles Accountability Act. Federal funding for training programs like yours. You did it. Andre's smile faltered, not from pride, but quiet disbelief. He looked out the window at the city skyline, whispering, We did it. Months later, Andre stood at a gravesite, his father's. The grass was trimmed, the headstone simple. Detective Harold Miles, 1949 to 2012. Justice needs courage. Andre knelt, placing fresh lilies on the grave. Dad, I finally did what you taught me, he said softly. I made them listen. A breeze rustled through the trees. Somewhere distant, church bells rang. He closed his eyes, whispering, And I'm still learning to forgive. That night, he walked out onto the rooftop terrace of the Miles Institute. The city shimmered below him, pulsing with life. Students and officers mingled on the ground floor, laughing, debating, connecting. Andre pulled out his phone and opened a text, a message from Doyle. It read, Starting my first class tomorrow at the academy. Teaching de-escalation. Wish me luck. Andre smiled. You've already earned it. He slipped the phone away, watching as the skyline faded into the horizon. In the end, justice didn't come from anger. It came from courage, from a man who refused to stay silent, and another who chose to change. Because real power isn't about who carries a gun. It's about who carries the truth.